Do you ever find yourself agreeing with someone? Have you ever been listening to someone and they are making great point after great point? You're nodding your head in agreement the entire time they're talking. And then they say something absolutely ignorant. It's so ignorant that it minimizes all the right things that they said before. Oftentimes, when this happens, we tend to forget everything that we agreed on and only remember the one stupid remark. There has been a lot of talk surrounding March Madness this year and last year. All the talk has been about equity, fair treatment, inclusion. You know what would make March Madness really equitable? You know what would make it really fair? If they invited all 300 plus teams to the tournament. That way, no one is feeling left out. We don't want to hurt feelings. All teams are included in the tournament. The woke media has been focusing so much on equity this year that they have completely forgotten about one of their usual complaints when it comes to college athletes: compensation. The media has been so concerned with making sure female athletes receive the same amount of apples and oranges in the buffet line as the men that they have completely forgotten about players being compensated. I haven't seen anyone mention this until last Friday, and it wasn't the media who brought it up. It was the fucking guy on Shark Tank. I haven't watched Shark Tank in a while now. I used to be a regular viewer. Mark Cuban was the reason that I watched the show. But when he decided to become a social justice warrior, my interest in Shark Tank immediately evaporated. Daymond John is another one of the investors, or sharks as they call them, on the show. He is the founder of FUBU. Now, for anyone born after 1995, FUBU was a popular clothing brand in the late 90s, early 2000s. It was basically a fad. It was popular for a few years, then it was gone. FUBU made Daymond John a wealthy man, and to his credit, he has done a lot of good things with his money. Even though I used to watch Shark Tank, I'm not all that familiar with Daymond John. After hearing his comments last Friday on TMZ, which I'll share with you in just a second, I automatically thought, this guy's woke too? This guy's another social justice warrior? So I did a little bit of research on him. I couldn't find any examples of blatant wokeness in him, which, believe me, that is extremely rare. Most public figures, celebrities, athletes, they are bending over backwards to be accepted in the club dumbass. Mark Cuban, for example, he used to be practical. He used to be inspirational, to be honest with you. He used to think logically. George Floyd happened, and somehow Mark Cuban's common sense went right out the fucking window, and he became desperate to be accepted by such luminaries like LeBron James. From what I can tell, Daymond John is a little bit different. If I'm wrong about him being a social justice warrior, if I'm wrong about him being woke, I'm sure you guys will let me know in the comments below. He does have a Black Lives Matter section on his website, but I couldn't find any blatant examples of his wokeness, which is why it was so surprising to hear what he had to say about March Madness. He is 100% right, but he had to include one remark, a comment that he knew would give Twitter social justice warriors an immediate boner, and it pretty much invalidated everything else that he had to say. See for yourself.
There's no other business like this, and this is the modern day version of slavery. Think about it like this. Okay, all right, TV rights in 2021 alone was $850 million. They said the sports books are going to gamble somewhere around $10 billion for March Madness. And that has nothing to do with the merch, what New Orleans is going to make, other alums who are donating to the schools and selling, more not scholarships, selling more entry level to the schools. And the players make nothing. Zero off of all that. And they say, hey, listen, well, we're giving you a scholarship. You know what? Why don't you pay me $2 million and I'm going to pay for me and my whole damn family to go to school? So I think this is modern day slavery, and they're just giving them a little bit of a crumb.
Let me tell you the problem here with this comparison. Well, first, Daymond John, he mentioned sports books making $10 billion on March Madness. That has nothing to do with the NCAA. It has nothing to do with the players. Yes, people are betting on the games, but The players have no rights to the money sports books are making. The book is assuming all the risk. NBA players aren't getting a cut from sports books profits. NFL players aren't getting a piece. Neither should college athletes. Now, I'm not a defender of the NCAA. I think the NCAA should be abolished, get rid of it. But comparing March Madness to slavery is 100% bullshit. There is this tendency in the virgin community to compare anything that they don't like, anything they don't agree with, to slavery. Corporate America is modern day slavery. The NFL is modern day slavery. March Madness is modern day slavery. How come they never compare the NBA to modern day slavery? The NBA gives us a boner, KC. Leave my lover out of this. If you want to make the slavery comparison, wouldn't the NBA, more than any other league, fit that criteria? The NBA silences dissenting voices. Enes Kanter begins speaking out against social justice. He criticizes Adam Silver's boo, Xi Jinping. His ass is thrown out of the league. He tried to wear shoes that read Free Tibet. NBA officials tried to force him to take them off. Matter of fact, the NBA supports real modern day slavery. I'm talking about actual slavery. Their silence on the Uyghur Muslims and their treatment in China, their silence is a form of approval. The woke media will never compare the NBA to slavery, though, because they're a card-carrying member of Club Woke. The NBA, they donate millions of dollars every year funding scholarships to woke youth, future social justice warriors. Now, let me tell you why comparing March Madness to slavery is bullshit. Slaves didn't have a choice. Back in the 1800s, black men didn't wake up one morning and decide, today I want to become a slave. Young black children, they didn't dream of growing up and becoming a slave. It was forced upon them. They didn't have rights. They didn't have freedom. The only benefit of being a slave, if you could even call it a benefit, is you were provided food and housing. Maybe. The shit was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. Go ask the Uyghur Muslims in China if participating in March Madness is a form of slavery. I guarantee you, 100% of the confined Muslims would trade their current conditions with how players are treated by the NCAA. Like I said, Daymond John made some excellent points. The clip circulating the internet is over 2 minutes. 99% of those 2 minutes, he is right on point. But when you read the various media outlets covering this story, all they focus on is the slavery comparison. This is why I keep saying that one remark invalidates everything else that he said. Normal people will discredit him because comparing March Madness to slavery is just ignorant. Social justice warriors will only focus on the slavery part and then try to convince you that it's true. For decades, the NCAA, along with colleges and universities, they have opposed paying college athletes. They always fall back on the same bullshit excuse. We are providing them with a free education. It costs $200,000 to attend this prestigious university. We're giving away a valuable education in return for his athletic services. Of course, this is bullshit. It is 100% bullshit. For one, no college education's worth $200,000. College has become so overpriced for the average 18-year-old kid, it's not even worth it to go to college. Outside of the COVID, college is the biggest scam forced upon young Americans. When I was growing up, they painted this false narrative that you had to attend college. If you don't go to college, you will be a loser. You will make minimum wage the rest of your life. You know how I have said before, politicians will create a problem, then offer you the solution? They created this myth that college is a requirement to success. Then they offered you the solution. My dad put himself through college in the early to mid 80s, paid for it himself, and he could pay for it because the degree only cost him around $5,000. Now, even though it was relatively cheap, some people still couldn't afford it back then. So, what does the government do? They step in. We will provide you with a low-interest student loan for people who can't afford to further their education. Everyone deserves the right to be educated. The feds, they began backing student loans. They had to. Otherwise, banks wouldn't loan out the money. Think about it. What lender in their right mind would give an 18-year-old kid hundreds of thousands of dollars? No one. Problem is, with federally backed student loans, tuition costs skyrocketed. Politicians, banks, universities, they have made trillions of dollars off the backs of young Americans. I guarantee you, if the federal government stopped backing student loans, the price of college would drop 500%. Schools would have to make it affordable. Otherwise, no one is going to go. Anyway, I'm steering way off topic here. Back to paying college athletes. I think most of us can agree. College athletes, especially in football and basketball, they should be paid. The NCAA, the television networks, universities, cities, states, clothing companies, sponsors, they are all making billions of dollars off of these kids. But, let me tell you one of the problems with paying student athletes. No one is talking about this either. This is a potential problem, and it would be a problem. Let's say we start paying players who participate in March Madness. You qualify for the tournament, you get paid. According to ABC, the TV rights deal for the tournament is worth $1.1 billion every year. 68 teams involved in March Madness, around, 15 or so players per team. If you gave each player $250,000, it would equate to $255 million. The NCAA, they would be left with the remaining $700 or so million. Now, on the surface, that seems pretty fair, right? Here's the problem. What did we talk about all week last week? Equity. The women with the assist from the woke media are going to push for their piece of the money. The issue, of course, is they don't generate that money. The men do. The women's tournament loses a couple of $1 million every year, and on a good year, they may make a few $100,000. You already know what their argument is going to be. The men are being paid $250,000. We are being forced to play for free. This is not fair. This is not equitable. It's modern day slavery. It is the same complaint we hear from WNBA players when they compare their compensation to NBA players. This would create a shitstorm for the NCAA. It would create a situation they don't have the balls to deal with. What would end up happening, the NCAA, they would fold to the pressure from the woke media. We agree to compensate everyone equally, which means everyone makes less money, everyone is equally miserable, and you're back to square one. In a perfect world, the men would be compensated based on their earnings. The women would be compensated based on the money that they generate. But we don't live in a perfect world. We live in a woke world. If we compensated the women on their earnings, they would end up writing the NCAA a fucking check. They would owe them money. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Give me your thoughts on Daymond John comparing March Madness to slavery. Also, would paying male athletes create a problem for the NCAA? Let me know. Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys later.